To quote Charles Dickens, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast brought to you by Comfort Mechanical Contractors, Durham's premier commercial HVAC installation and service company. For more information, go to comfortmc.com or call 919 383 2502. And as always, I'm your host, Brian Kennedy, joined alongside my co hosts, Josh Cox, Scott Medlin, and Jamie Holt. And as I stated, it was a tough one, another tough one down in Tallahassee. We had two of the guys down there, Scott and Josh, and we're all going to give our thoughts on the upsetting 38-20 loss to the Florida State Seminoles. But before we give our thoughts, as always, we've got to hear from the man himself. Here's head coach Mike Elko postgame.
Disappointing result. We obviously came into this game with high expectations of how we would play and how we would perform. I think for 3 quarters we showed that. And then just in the fourth quarter, we didn't have the responses that we needed. We didn't convert the 4th and 3. We didn't respond on defense, and we gave up the 97-yard drive, which I really think caused a lot of fatigue. We didn't put a drive together on offense to respond, and then we went back out on defense, and we didn't respond. And so, the fourth quarter kind of got away from us, and they were obviously able to pull away and create the score that they did. I thought for 3 quarters we battled our defense against their offense. I thought we held them in check to some degree, as much as you can, that offense. But at the end of the day, in those types of games and those types of atmospheres, we've got to be more efficient in the throw game. We've got to be able to execute better. We can't complete 8 passes and try to win a game on the road like that. And we've got to finish better in the fourth quarter. Our execution on defense in the fourth quarter was really, really poor. And so, it got away at the end. And so now we got to regroup. We got a really talented Louisville team coming in next week. And it's going to be a huge challenge for us. And, open it up to questions.
And again, that was head coach Mike Elko giving his thoughts immediately after the 38-20 loss to the Florida State Seminoles in Tallahassee. And fellas, let's go ahead and just knock this one out of the way. Pretty much 3 quarters Duke, and then the 1 quarter that mattered the most went to Florida State. The score did not dictate how the game itself went. For someone who might have just turned on the TV Sunday morning to see the score, didn't watch a single bit of it. Josh and Scott, we'll start with you guys because y'all were there, knee deep in Tallahassee country and Seminole country. Overall thoughts on the game and what possibly could have happened for Duke to get another win?
Well, it seemed like 3 quarters in the truth. And then unfortunately, the truth was Riley got hurt, and that pretty much dampened the spirit. I You got to give praise where praise is due. The fans were into the game. They were great. I mean, the atmosphere was unbelievable. Most of them were pretty good. There were a couple idiots, but there's always a couple idiots. Um, Man, they were worried. Everybody we talked to on Friday, we saw, they were like, "Man, you guys scare us. You guys scare us." And that was with not even 100% sure that Riley was even going to play. So the fact that Riley was able to play, and just the fact that he got hurt on, I'm going to call it a dirty play because that's what I thought it was live. It's bad. It happened. I hate it. And you're asking a whole heck of a lot from anybody, especially poor Henry. And I don't mean poor Henry like that. Just the fact that Henry's only been in 5 games, and you're putting him in the biggest atmosphere that Duke's played in Lord knows how long. You're asking a lot. And he was just, if he had one more second, he's that close to Calhoun's hands getting that football in the corner of the end zone right in front of us. But he didn't have another second. He held on as long as he possibly could. So, but Florida State's good. The best thing they did, I thought, in my opinion, was when they went to the RPO and they let Travis run. That opened the game for them completely, because Duke was selling out on the running back because he hadn't really held the football and done anything with it for a couple weeks. So the fact that he held on to it, because he saw the same thing most quarterbacks see anyway. Guy's a 6-year guy as it is, so he saw the defenders coming in. Oh, okay, well, I got the outside then, and that's exactly what he did. So, overall, Duke played their hearts out. I mean, they left it all out on the field. I hate we lost, but I mean, there's still a chance. The road is still there for Duke to go down it and to get an opportunity to play them again in 6 weeks in Charlotte. But you got to do what you got to do. But all in all, I mean, Tallahassee, or- it's not. It was kind of like Durham South a little bit. There's a lot of different things. A lot of it looked the same to me. Um, just we had a good time. There's some funny stories you can tell maybe off air that were really good. But other than that, really good time. Atmosphere was great. Fans were great. The tailgate was great. I mean, the fact that the fans actually came over and helped put stuff up, helped talk to us after the game was over. We were waiting to get in the car to leave. They're coming up and, man, you guys played great. We appreciate you guys coming down here. It's just complimentary things you just don't get from opposing fans anywhere. So it was good to see that these people actually had a little bit of class, unlike some of the younger version of them that were inside the game next to us.
Yeah, I'll echo some of what Scott said. We were able to go down there. First of all, we got there Friday and we were able to go around campus. Got to go to a baseball game for a half inning or so. They were doing one of the free like fall ball games. It's right there beside the stadium. We got to see the sod cemetery there, Brian, that you spoke about in the tail of the tape last week, which was it was kind of neat. It was a little underwhelming, but it was a cool concept. The Bobby Bowden statue, all that stuff was really cool. Their team store was like if you've ever been to the Nike store at Duke, there if you multiply that by about 4 or 5, that was the size of their team store. Honestly, makes me jealous because their athletic department absolutely takes advantage of licensing agreements. They had everything you could think of in there, licensing wise, and just going to throw this out there a Jordan Travis section with with posters of Jordan Travis, T-shirts with Jordan Travis on it in their team store. So anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. That I thought that was neat. As Scott mentioned, we were able to see some people on campus, some former players. Introduce themselves, just super kind, man. Honestly, Duke fans, like we can learn from that. Like their fans went overboard to make us feel welcome. They were so kind to us. They were very respectful. Now, granted, we're not Florida Gators or Miami Hurricanes. I understand that, but it's when we do have visiting teams on our campus, man, go out of your way to be kind and help people, and like it was really cool. And then game day. Um, Tailgating started at noon. Shout out Hard Hat guys. We were able to have a 4 tent tailgate. Let's see, we had the Blades family, us, Hard Hats, Leonards, and then everybody came and hung kind of at those 4 tents that we had together. But it was a madhouse. I mean, it was pretty wild. And then the game. So I have a couple of comments about the game. First of all, the fans. I mean, there were 75,000 plus in that stadium, packed out, tomahawk chop, going crazy. So not only did Henry get thrown into the game, he got thrown into the game in the fourth quarter at Doak Campbell. Like it was not just like getting thrown into a game at some random place. He got thrown in when he got thrown in, so that was difficult. Um, I as well, Scott thought the Riley hit was dirty, especially from where we were sitting. Well, the face mask was dirty. Let's put it that way. The face mask was dirty. I don't know if the hit that actually, I don't know what happened with his foot, but the face mask was dirty. And at the end of the day, do I believe we score a touchdown if Riley stays in the game? I do. I do believe that. And I believe that puts us up 10. But let me just say this I don't necessarily think that means we win the game. The momentum was already starting to shift midway through the third quarter. Um, I'm not saying we lose the game, but I'm also saying it wasn't a guarantee that we were going to win that game. The one thing that I would guarantee us, I believe, is that Riley would have extended the drives a little bit in the fourth quarter, where the defense didn't seem like they were on the field all the time, and that's where I think the problem. First time I think in the last year that I felt like we really did get gassed on defense, and there was really nothing that we could do about it. They want to shout out 2 players specifically. One player is Graham Barton. When you hear of Florida State, there's one player on defense you hear about all the time. His name is Jared Verse. Jared Verse did have 5 tackles, but Jared Verse only got near the quarterback one time for a quarterback hurry. Graham really held his own. Now, there's a lot of FSU fans chirping about holding. You know what's really funny about that? They're chirping about holding. When we were meeting the players after the game, I won't mention who it is, but a defensive lineman came up, and first thing out of his mouth, man, they were holding the whole game. So like both sides are saying they're holding. So like we can give that up. That is a wash. Look, we watch enough football to know that holds get called whenever the heck the officials want to call them, and usually it's at crucial times. But anyway, second player. So Graham Barton, shout out Graham. I think Graham really showed pro scouts what they thought they saw last year. I think he showed it. Second player, Jock Moore. Man, what an incredible game by that running back. Now he is from about less than an hour outside of Tallahassee, so that was like a homecoming game for him, and you could tell it. He was in it, and so yeah, those are the two players, Jacques on offense. I'm sorry, in the backfield, and then Graham on the offensive line there that I wanted to shout out. But great game. Thank you, Seminole Nation. You guys were awesome. Seriously, even those of you talking smack, y'all were still awesome. We had a great time, and I don't really care to go back because Tallahassee pretty much sucks as a city. But other than that, it was really cool.
So while those two were down in Tallahassee, me and Jamie were the poor folk being back at home. And for those of you keeping count, it is currently COVID-19. Jamie, nothing. But Jamie, I think he got some antibiotics today. So it's about time to turn the corner, Jamie. Defeat COVID, getting ready before Louisville. What were your thoughts as you watched the game?
First and foremost, I'd like to give a shout out to the trolls on our YouTube video that were commenting and just saying Duke had no chance and everything. And I was trying to keep up with all those comments, and I was replying to them on our YouTube video. And one guy said, "Can't wait to see if y'all even have a reaction video." I'm like, dude, we record every Monday. We will have a reaction video. So shout out to those trolls. FSU is a good team. They're a good football team, and Lord have mercy, the size of their receivers are, man, like Wilson was that dude's like 6'7". Like there was times where he was covered and blanketed, and he just made a catch, and it just unreal. And like I think Scott said, when they opened up the game for Jordan Travis, and he started running and kind of getting into the flow of the game, man, he was virtually unstoppable in that fourth quarter. And a lot of it had to do with Riley going down, and I know we'll talk about that more. I believe, like Josh said, I think that we go up 27-17 right there if Riley is in the game, even hurt or not. I believe that we were going to score right there, and but the biggest turning point of the game for me was when Duke went up 17-7, and then turn around kickoff 99 kickoff yard touchdown. That was tough. That was tough, and that was that was kind of where it started to go downhill. Yes, Duke went into halftime leading 20-17, but it really started right there, and FSU kind of turned it around.
It's a funny story about that, Jamie. That specific instance. So Duke had just scored right on Jock. I think it was Jacquez's long touchdown run. Was that right? That put him up
No,
17-7.
no, it was the Chandler
Mhm.
Rivers
It
interception.
was
Yeah,
it was
pick
a
six.
big
Pick
That's what it was.
six.
It was the pick
Yep.
six. And so I'm like, sweet, I'm gonna run to the restroom real quick, get a refill on my drink. So I run down. There's this one short little weirdo from Florida State that had been talking smack to me and Stanley Monk the whole pregame, and he was down there. And I walked by. I'm like, hey, little man. I'm like, what do you think about that? And so I'm talking smack to him, and he's like, back at me. So then I leave, and dude, I wasn't out there 30 seconds, and they returned the kickoff. So I'm coming walking back up. And I'm like, man, please hope this guy is not in his seat. Sure enough, man, I turned the corner and he's right there. He's like, hey, what up, big boy? He's like talking smack to me. So it was good, man. It was all in good fun. But yeah, I stuck my foot in my mouth in that one, man. So sorry, Jamie, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I say and the crazy part about that was though both those touchdowns, the Jaquez Moore touchdown where he ran it was in front of us, and the kickoff return he ended up zooming and got it scored right in front of where we were sitting.
Yeah, I mean, just in the end, I would love to see Duke, and we're going to discuss this some more. I would love to see Duke get a chance with a healthy Riley Leonard. And I don't know if Riley Leonard's even going to be healthy the rest of the year at this point. I mean, that ankle, that could bother him the rest of the year. But I mean, I would love to get another shot at FSU. What'd you think, Brian?
What I think, Jamie, I don't know. You kind of trailed off there for a second. 14 minutes in, and Jamie lost it already.
Jamie fell asleep mid sentence, bro.
What do you Think about it. Insert Mitch McConnell meme. All right, sorry. I had a very interesting Saturday night, to say the least. There you go, Josh. That's exactly the one. No, you got to close your mouth and look off into the distance. So, for those of you who saw, the week before, Harrison, my son, and Hudson, my son, got to paint some shoes for the UNC coaching staff. So, along with that, we got invited to the UNC Virginia game. So, it was me, my wife, my boys. In all honesty, I went in there and I was wearing all Duke stuff, and I trust me, there were plenty of UNC fans ribbing me. But I looked at Bethany, my wife, and I was like, "Look, let's just go by halftime. This game's going to be well in hand after probably the first quarter. I really want to get home and watch, the Duke FSU game." Well, then of course I jinxed it because at the half it was 17-14 UNC. We still left. The boys were just ready. They were done. But on the way home, I had Hulu on my phone, and yes, Josh, it was actually up to date. They hadn't just kicked off. But I just echoing everything these three guys said. I don't need to go into any more, but it was just one of those games to where the momentum, you knew heading into that play right before Riley got hurt, there was nothing at that time FSU could do to stop the Duke offense. Where on the flip side, Florida State just had no answer. Again, yes, they ran the ball back 99 yards for a touchdown, but that's all they could do, really. Do I think momentum shifted after the Riley injury? 100%. Everybody that I talked to, Duke fans, UNC fans, they all said, y'all had this game had Riley not gone down. And to thrust Henry in there, to Scott's point, I believe, into 75,000 crazy Seminole fans, probably could not hear, the person next to him. That would have been a tall task no matter who you asked to go in, whether it was someone experienced or not. And I'm going to bring this up, and we can talk about this really quick before we get to our interview. Going for the touchdown to going for the field goal. Jamie's smiling because me and him are actually on the same page. And don't make me get bleeped by Justin. So here's my thought process. And fellas, we can go bad cop, good cop, whatever. But if Riley's not going back in based off of that injury, I mean, it looked like his ankle went in this time, probably just re-aggravated the high ankle sprain. Why not go up 6 to where Henry now has time on the sidelines to chat with Kevin Johns to kind of go over a possible game plan the next series. But instead, it's no points. FSU gets the ball, marches it down 99 yards, and then he's right back on the field. And FSU stacked the box. They did that for the rest of the night because they knew that Henry was not as prepared as he was for the state game. Let's just put it that way. Because after the Notre Dame game, you pretty much could assume that Coach Elko went up to Henry and said, barring a miracle, you're playing against state. So get prepared. Whereas it was, hey, kid, Riley's played 3 quarters. Get in there. So me and Jamie, we talked about it on text while the guys were in the stadium. We both agreed in that type of game, take the points, get as many points as you can. Now, in the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't have mattered based off of the score. FSU just had the momentum in the fourth quarter. But to me, and I'm not a head coach, Coach Elko, if you're listening, we can talk about it in the offseason like we did with the 2-point conversion against Pitt. You take the points, you're up 6 to where when and if FSU scored, instead of being down 4 to where you would need a touchdown, you're only down 1 to where you need another field goal. Had it become a defensive battle in the fourth quarter. But again, ifs and buts, it is what it is. But what are y'all's thoughts on that? I don't even know what it ifs and buts.
Or candy and nuts.
Should have nuts or something.
I'm not sure.
That's why I didn't want to. I did. Yeah, I did. Merry Christmas, everyone. I didn't want to botch that, but what are y'all's thoughts? I mean, it is what it is. The game's over, but that was just my thoughts.
I won't. I know people are going to say like, "Oh, you don't understand analytics," but I understand the analytics of going for that there. If you
Jamie,
miss
you
it,
don't understand analytics.
yeah.
If
If you miss it right there, Florida State has to go 90 some yards on your defense, which is top 5 in the country at the time. They've slipped some now after that fourth quarter, unfortunately. But you think that you have a shot. You think that your defense is going to get off the field, But in that situation, I agree with Brian. Henry's coming in cold against a FSU team that's number 4 in the country, potential national championship team, let's be honest, against in a stadium, Doak Campbell, 75,000 screaming fans, tomahawk chop going like crazy. He's just, I would have took the 3. I absolutely would have took the 3 right there. You go up 23-17. Even if Florida State drives the next drive, you're only down 24-23. Then Henry has a chance, like Brian said, to discuss some things, get calm, maybe on the sideline, maybe even huddle with Riley, huddle with Kevin Johns. Um, I just think you take the 3 right there.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with you guys. I'm usually a fan of getting the points, especially when that leg of Topolino is just killer, like it was Doak Campbell the other night. So that's number one. Number two, there are two other small. We don't need to discuss these. I just want to bring them up because I know that if you're a fan, there are two plays you may have seen. Number one was when the officials let Florida State sub on a fourth down when Duke did not sub out and Coach Elko was livid. Duke wound up having to take a time, or I think Florida State ended up getting a timeout. Then Duke didn't go for it or something or another on fourth down there. That was one play. There was another play, though. And look, Coach Elko doesn't listen to our weekly episodes. I would actually love to have this conversation with him. Duke did take a timeout on one fourth down, and then they punted. And it was in the second and the third quarter. Like there was like a 4th and 1 or 2, and we took the time. My thing is, if we're going to take the timeout, go for it. Like, don't waste a timeout. Like, just take the 5-yard penalty if you're going to punt it and back Porter up a little bit. So, like, there was a couple of calls, a couple of things we did that I wasn't really sure, and it's kind of unlike us on the coaching side. But yeah, the one where Coach Elko was livid was Duke did not sub out, but yet that referee stood over the ball and let Florida State sub out, and they wound up taking a timeout or whatever and getting their defense set when Duke was on the ball ready to snap. So anyway, we don't have to necessarily discuss that. I just wanted to bring that up as like things that we noticed.
I'll say this, and I'll be the devil's advocate for a moment. And live in the moment, yes, I thought the 3 would have been perfect. After listening to the coach today, he said 23 was not going to win the game. So he thought going for 7, the momentum was there. If they got it, who knows? So he has done all these things. He's prepared all these things. He knows what the heck he's doing. I'm going to side on whatever he did. I can still second guess anything from where I sit, but he's the one getting paid for it. And if it goes wrong, he's the one that everybody's going to be mad at, not me. But either way, I mean, there's so many other things too that happened during the game that could have gone one way or the other. So it is what it is. Like I said, Florida State at the end of the day, they're the number 4 team in the country for a reason. So the fact that and this is something that irritated me, and I'm just going to go a little soapbox for a second. You're the number 4 team in the country. You're talking trash and running your mouth, running up and down the aisles after you've won the game to the number 16 team in the country. You're supposed to win by 2 touchdowns. I mean, you're supposed to win. Why? What do you gain? And the fact, and one more thing, I'll shut up. Before the game started, as we were getting ready to go in, and I'll keep the person nameless, but somebody walked up to a parent wearing a jersey and started running their mouths to the parent, and it was both parents, and the dad turned around and said, "Look, guys, you can talk all the stuff you want to talk. At the end of the day, I don't care. You can keep running your mouth. You're not going to affect me. You're not going to get me to trigger. You're not going to get me to do anything more than just sit here and talk right back to you." Those 2 boys ended up shutting up by the end of that conversation because they realized they were not barking up the correct tree. Now, had his son been standing there, those 2 boys would have ran for their lives back to Ocala, Florida, or Orlando, Florida, wherever the heck they came from, because they'd have been scared. But anyway,
And that message was brought to you by Scott Medlin. Well, and again, we're gonna probably button this one up. Again, we got to look ahead to Louisville. My question, just hypothetically to you guys, if it was 23, say they kick the field goal and the defensive battle starts back. and they score and it's 24-23, do you think Elko's thought about letting Riley back in would have changed had there been a shot to win?
No, I don't think he
Okay.
was going to risk. I don't think he was going to risk Raleigh getting hurt any more than what he already was.
Yeah, just curious because there were some fans on message boards going, he wants to come back in. He's been doing all this on the sidelines. I mean, the cameras for ESPN, it would every time that a play would stop, back to Riley showing him, jogging and doing cut drills and whatever. But some of the Duke fans were just like, he needs to go back in. Why aren't you putting him back in? To Jamie's point, Elko's thinking long term. There's still, 6 more games to go. I'm sorry, 5 more games to go, plus maybe a potential ACC title game, depending on how the cards fall. So I was just curious. Again, I wasn't
The
trying to
one
start
thing,
anything.
the one thing he couldn't do on the sidelines, he could not stand on his right foot and jump on his right foot without his left foot touching the ground. He could not stand on the bad leg and jump.
Okay,
And
they
I
didn't
think
show that.
I think
Yeah.
when he couldn't do that, I was like, man, he can't. That's not gonna. And kudos to Elko, he's getting some love as well from people on like not letting Riley get back in the game. You can't do that. So anyway, but I will say this. Only thing I'll tell you, Riley now knows he can play on a hurt ankle. So that's all I'll say. Riley now knows he can go and be effective in a game with his ankle hurt. So Duke fans, just take that for what it's worth.
And he did everything he could. I mean, he
Yeah.
begged and pleaded. I mean, I don't know how much they showed on television. And then I think finally they told him, look, we're going to put Henry in. And Riley did the best he could from there, trying to help and do what he could from the sideline. So it showed to me that he's the ultimate team player as it is. He's the ultimate competitor. And, as T.O. would say, that's my quarterback. That's my quarterback.
Well, again, we could spend a whole episode reacting to the FSU game, but we got another game coming up this weekend. 3:30 kickoff in Louisville against the Louisville Cardinals, and we're back, fellas. We got someone on. Last week was a little tough. We couldn't get AJ Manuel, so this week we've got ACC Network's Mark Packer talking to us all things about the Louisville Duke game and his overall thoughts about the rest of the ACC season. We had a great time. We even went old school. We didn't do it on StreamYard. We went back to Zoom. That's how old school we went, like we've done in the years past. So here's our conversation. It was Josh, Scott, and myself sitting down and talking with Mark Packer.
Hello and welcome again to this week's Section 17 podcast. We are interviewing Mark Packer, the co-host of ACC PM show on the ACC Network, son of Billy Packer, an ACC historian of sort, sail with the pilot there, and also an avid Giants fan and a disliker of the LA Dodgers like me. So the man has greatness in his blood right there. Well, Mark, we appreciate you coming on and being with us today. So before the season started, you actually had picked Louisville as your sleeper team. What made you pick Louisville as your sleeper team? What about them turned your head?
Well, a couple things. Number one, Jeff Brom is a really good football coach, and he's an offensive-minded coach. And I just thought with what they had coming back, even though Malik Cunningham was gone, Jack Plummer knew the system. He put up some good numbers at Cal. And the way they've recruited, the way they've used the transfer portal for speed, I just assumed that Louisville would be a team that score a lot of points. I also love the fact there was no Florida State, there was no Clemson, there was no North Carolina on the schedule. And given the fact that we have no divisions, we're just now talking about, hey, can you be one of the two best teams from a record standpoint to get to Charlotte? Not that I said, hey, Louisville's going to be in the ACC championship game, but there was always going to be one of those teams in the league that was going to surprise, much like Duke did a year ago when all of a sudden people were like, well, you know what, this guy Elko, what in the world, why would he leave A&M to become the head coach at Duke? What are they going to do? He's inheriting a disaster. They'd be lucky to win a few games. Next thing you know, Duke's winning 9 and could have won 10 or 11 easily. So there's always one team, regardless of what league we cover. This happens to be the ACC. That kind of comes, that flies out of the radar and surprises everybody. I just thought because of all those reasons, Louisville could be that team. And sure enough, Jeff Brom's done a really good job. Jack Plummer, when he's really good, is really good. They have hit some home runs with the transfer portal with speed. They've got enough defense to keep you honest. It's a franchise that wants to be good. They got a terrific fan base. And sure enough, no Clemson, no North Carolina, no Florida State. And here we are going into late October. And what now all of a sudden feels like kind of a loser leave town match for Charlotte with Duke and Louisville this week. It is a monstrous game for both parties, quite frankly.
Yeah, looking at that, the Duke program, the Louisville program. I mean, you've been around this league a long time. Have you seen, two head coaches come in and just be able to just flip the script so quickly, right? Like, I mean, with Duke here, basically the same team. I mean, only 3 guys transferred out during the coaching change. Mike Elko takes that team that went 2-9, 3-9 previous 2 years, 9-4. You're seeing the swift turnaround there at Louisville too. That's uncanny historically in the league, right?
Well, it is, and these are 2 really good coaches. Now, I've told this story before. ACC Network, we in August of every year we do camp tours. We basically go around and they assign certain people to certain schools. Well, Eric McLean, who I know you guys have had on, Eric and I were doing the Duke camp tour. This was not this past August, the August before, and it happened to be Mike Elko's first fall practice. And I'm listen. Eric's played the game. I'm a fan like everybody else, and I remember we're talking to Elko, and he was great, real personable guy. Obviously, got a great reputation from a defensive perspective. Now becomes a head coach, and I will never forget watching Duke come out of the practice indoor and out to the outdoor for their first practice. And again, we had no idea if Riley Leonard could play dead in a cowboy movie, much less go on to be a star. We didn't even know who Duke's quarterback was going to be, right? And I remember we watched Duke's practice that day, and we went on the air that night. And Eric and I, at the end, they say, all right, give us a forecast. What do you expect for Duke in 22? And again, and I want everybody to win. It's in my best interest for everybody in the league to be good. And I think my comment was, if Duke can get the 3 wins, this is really going to be a heck of a year for Mike Elko to be able to do it. Because you watch them just on the eye test, you're like, man, they're so small. Yeah, they got a guy here or there, but how is this team going to compete with Mike Elko trying to learn the lay of the land of the ACC? And it shows you how much I know. I mean, I thought they could win 3, they won 9. So, we went to do the Duke camp tour this year, and Eric was on it with me. And we got to that segment, and Eric and I just started laughing at each other. I said, wait, are you going to say it, or am I going to say it? Because we both thought that Duke would be fortunate to win 3 games in 22. And I almost wanted to say, I was almost going to say, I'm going to predict Duke to win 3 games again, because that means they could go on and win 10 or 11. So
Yeah.
it just goes to show you what a brilliant job Mike Elko has done, and also what his staff has done. I mean, he has really put together a tremendous football staff. And when you watch Duke play, and again, if you can take all the bias away and your eyes are just watching the game, the one thing that pops off the screen or even in person, if you go see him play, is they are so well coached. They're always in the right place. They tackle extremely well. And like even the Florida State game, I mean, if Riley Leonard doesn't go down, Duke fans will talk about this forever and ever. If he doesn't go down, Duke was going toe to toe with right now the best team in the ACC in that environment where everybody thought, man, they're going to go down there and get waxed. Wrong. They were dictating tempo all the way until basically the 5-minute mark of the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
That is a really, really good football team. And I give their players, their staff, their conditioning, their workout guys, Mike Elko, and let's be honest, Nina King, a lot of credit for saying, guess what? Here's the guy that fits the principles of what we represent at Duke University. He is a perfect fit. And on top of that, is a great guy to work with from what we do for a living in the media business. So it's a win-win proposition. And if you're a Duke football fan, you've got to be thrilled to death, despite what happened in Tallahassee. The future is incredibly bright in Durham.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Nina and your predictions of going, hopefully winning 3 wins in 2022, because we spoke with Nina right after the hire, and she was telling Duke fans, let's alter expectations. Let's be patient. This is going to take some time. And, the 4 of us, we're as true Blue Devil fans in football as you can find them. And we were even like, man, this is going to take a little while. And then after the 9 wins, we're like, oh, man, this is awesome. We're not used to this. So trust me, everyone was blown away by the first year of Coach Elko. And we're all glad it wasn't a flash in the pan, because he has truly silenced a lot of the naysayers heading into this 2023 season.
Well, and you know what the best thing about it too, and again, I say this now as a Clemson alum, forget about what I do for the ACC network. We were at that game, And it's funny, even at halftime of the Clemson game Labor Day night, regardless of how that game was going to turn out, whether you win by 3 touchdowns or lose by 3 touchdowns, there was no doubt at halftime of that game that from a physical standpoint, from a speed standpoint, from a schematic standpoint, this was a fist fight. And so for anybody that thought 22 was a fluke, they're going to see Clemson around the gate and get blown away. And you knew instantly, no, that wasn't going to be the case at all. And I thought what they did against Clemson, the way they won that game, they were the better football team. They were the better coached football team. And then what you saw against Florida State in that environment, anybody that walks away and says, oh, Duke's not, this is a joke. You don't know what you're talking about. This is a really, really well-coached football team.
So heading back to Louisville, last time they were on the field 2 weeks ago, upset loss to Pitt. Looking at Louisville's remaining ACC schedule, they got a lot of their games out of the way early in the season in the ACC. Other than Duke, which team has the best shot to beat Louisville? They still have Miami, Virginia, and Virginia Tech alongside Duke.
Well, I would say Miami, just because what Mario Cristobal is trying to build at Miami, their offensive and defensive lines are really good. I mean, they're physical and tough, which is exactly what Cristobal wants to do. And you kind of saw that this past weekend in their double overtime win against Clemson. They basically dominated the fourth quarter and shoved it down their throat. So Louisville's got speed. They're going to try to spread you. Jawar Jordan's been fantastic. Again, I don't know what his hamstring's like for this week. You saw that when he didn't go against Pittsburgh, their run game disappeared. Louisville's been a totally different team at home as opposed to being on the road. So again, I think that if you look at their schedule, to me, if I had to pick one, I would say other than the Duke game, Miami would be a concern just because the way they can play bully ball. And if you don't get the football, you can't do anything with it. So, but Louisville's going to be a tough out. And, this game with Duke this weekend is, like I said, is beyond critical as far as getting to Charlotte that first Saturday in December.
So as the season has progressed, I know obviously we talked about Louisville being your surprise team. Is there a new person to take that spot in your mind so far in this season?
No, because I still think it's Louisville, regardless of how the second half plays out for them, because they've now put themselves in position along with Duke and North Carolina, and obviously Florida State's in the driver's seat. But everybody else, I know Virginia Tech's only got one loss, but I wouldn't put Virginia Tech in the same conversation as Duke, North Carolina, Louisville, and Florida State. So I think that is the 4 teams. I mean, those are the 4 teams, quite frankly. Now, could somebody emerge out of nowhere? I mean, could Virginia Tech run the table? I guess they could, but I just don't think that Coach Pry has the Hokies in that position yet that they can be good enough to be able to pull that up. What we saw Virginia do against North Carolina, I mean, that's why we love college football, right? I mean, I say it all the time, the more you read, the more you study, the dumber you get on Saturday watching games. And it's just an incredible win for Tony Elliott. And, the people that probably hate that the most outside of Chapel Hill is probably the ACC office that's thinking, hey, maybe in a perfect world, you could get Florida State, North Carolina undefeated for a championship, which would be incredible for the league and from a national perspective. But again, the combination of teams that are going to get to Charlotte are all really good football teams. And choose your poison between Louisville and Duke, Carolina, and Florida State. Whatever that combination is, could be spectacular. And if somebody else happens to get hot, whether it be Miami or somebody else, hey, more power to them. But I think that's basically what we're looking at right now, late October.
Well, yeah, and so you're talking about it right now, like it's kind of chaotic. First season, obviously with this schedule type, without the divisions and whatnot, we're about halfway through the season. ACC Player of the Year. If you had to give your mid-season ACC Player of the Year right now, where would you lean?
It's funny. We did that last week on the show, and I think we had 3 or 4 different answers, and I picked Drake May. Now, if you're asking me after this last week, I can't pick Drake May. I would probably go Jordan Travis only because, they've got so many offensive weapons, and Mike Norvell's done a fabulous job. Again, you talk about Nina King saying being patient. Just look what Florida State went through and what he's turned around in the last couple of years. So I think this week, my answer would be completely different than it was last week, just based on the weekend's results. So I would go Jordan Travis as the offensive player of the year this particular week. And if you
Yeah.
ask me next week, I may have a completely different answer, which to me is a testament to how good the league is from not only a coaching perspective, the quarterbacks in this league are great. And I think the skill people in this league have been really, really good. It's been a really interesting, entertaining, and wonderful year for ACC football.
Well, to justify that pick, this was really the first week in a while, at least, that it seemed like they were cool with Jordan Travis running the football, especially in the second half. And when he's running, it opens up a whole nother dynamic. When he's back there just throwing the ball, he's good. But when he's running, I mean, that was what broke the back, this past Saturday. So yeah,
Yeah,
very interesting. I think we would agree after seeing him in person. Scott and I were there in Tallahassee. After seeing him in person, he's an incredible, incredible player.
well, and the other thing too, people always talk about experience, and if you have a really talented and experienced player in college football, especially at quarterback, it is a game changer. And this guy's been playing 6 years, and the game has really slowed down. And to Florida State's credit, they've got great weapons. So it is kind of the perfect storm right now in Tallahassee. Now they got to go figure out if they can close, and that'll be the fun thing to watch.
Well, going back, you said you picked Drake May last week and then they lost to Virginia. We wouldn't mind if you kept picking Drake May if it meant more UNC losses. Just throwing that out there, Mark.
Well, listen, I always make fun of my picks because people always want, Pack, who do you think is going to win? I'm like, man, I don't know. And I say that because I don't know. And that line I just gave you a little bit ago about the more you read, the more you study. All I do all week is read, study, prep. And then we get in front of the camera and act like idiots for a couple hours each day on the show. But I sit there on Saturdays in amazement because you'll sit there and you'll analyze it, and all the numbers will tell you A's better than B. Then you watch the game, and you go, I mean, you almost wish you never said a word. But to me, that's fun. I mean, you got to make fun of your picks and all that kind of stuff. But college football is so fantastic. And again, everybody always worries about. Well, I know we'll come out with the first college football playoff poll on Halloween, and people are always worried about where they're ranked in the AP poll. And I'm like, man, don't worry about such stupid stuff. The AP poll is irrelevant. When that playoff committee comes out on Halloween, you'll find out exactly where you stand in the big picture.
We just love the fact that Coastal Calamity is still around, even with no divisions. We love it. It's just going to be like this for the rest of the season. Well, going back,
I was going to say the other
yeah,
good thing too, if you're a Duke fan, you get to stick your nose in everybody's business. You just did it with Florida State. You've already beaten Clemson. You see Louisville this week. You got Carolina in a couple weeks. And when you're in games that get into late October and then early November, I don't care who you're playing. Every week you feel the pressure that you've got to hold serve. And that's why it's never a straight line where people go, oh, well, Florida State's a lock. Well, you know what? They would be the favorite. Nobody would argue that, but they've got to close. And you find out a lot about programs and teams and players when the pressure's on, when you're supposed to win. Sometimes that's the most difficult thing to do. And that's true whether we're talking about football, basketball, baseball, or anything else.
so let's look ahead this weekend, 3:30 kickoff on ESPN. Big showdown in Louisville, like you stated. And it's surprising, Mark, this is only Duke's second, I guess you would call it, day game. 3:30 kickoff. The last time they had a kickoff like that was all the way back against Northwestern. But we're going to have some fun with you. We always do this with every guest we have on. We have our fill in the blank session. So we're going to ask you a question. You're going to fill in the blank as best you can. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. Duke needs to watch out for who on this Louisville team this weekend?
I would say George Jordan. To me, it is a difference maker when he can run the football. And if he doesn't go, then Thrash, obviously the wide receiver, is just a dynamic playmaker. And I know Duke's secondary's done a great job. They just saw an incredible collection of wide receivers at Florida State. But Louisville's going to try to spread the field. And Jeff Brom, coming off a loss and an open date, will probably have a little trick up his sleeve too. He's a clever coach. And again, to me, the chess match of Brom's offensive mind and Elko's defensive mind is worth the price of admission this week. It's good on good this week.
Duke will win Saturday and possibly beyond if Riley Leonard's unable to go, with Henry Beeling if.
But to me, that's the whole thing for Duke. Riley Leonard plays, Duke can play and beat everybody on the schedule moving forward. If Riley does not go, and that ankle is a bigger issue, and I hope he can play because he's such a great kid and a terrific player. I just don't know if Duke can beat people if you're telling me, hey, we can only throw 5 forward passes and complete them in a game. You can't. The league's too good to be able to play one-handed with one hand tied behind your back, and Duke's going to have to be. If Leonard can't go, Duke's going to have to figure out a way to at least be honest throwing the football downfield, and it's just too hard to do. And people know that, hey, all they're going to do is run. You can stack lines and make life miserable. But if Riley Leonard can turn that thing around and go, I think Duke looks at every game and says, why not us? Let's go win every single one of them.
All right, Mark. Louisville would defeat Duke Saturday and go 7-1 if they blank.
If they don't see Riley Leonard and Duke can't throw the football. I mean, because I do think that Louisville will be able to score. And I'm not saying they're going to put 35 on Duke because nobody's been doing that to Duke except Florida State. But really, quite frankly, Florida State didn't do it until Leonard went down. I mean, they had to run a kickoff back, and they're sitting there with 17 points midway through the third quarter, which tells you what a great job Duke was doing defensively. So Duke's been in every single game from a defensive perspective. But again, I do think that Louisville will spread it, and that's a home field that they've been really, really good at. I suspect that they will score some points. So Duke's going to have to be able to throw the football a little bit. They don't have to be air Duke, but being able to throw the forward pass, you got to be able to do it.
All right, looking ahead to December, Louisville will make the ACC title game if.
And I think Louisville's in if they beat Duke in Miami. The Pitt loss was a killer. But I think they'll match up with both Virginia and Virginia Tech from that perspective. I mean, I like their chances in those games. It may come down to the game this week, quite frankly. And like I said, it just kind of feels like a loser leave town match as far as Charlotte goes, that the winner moves on to survive and the loser is going to need some help. It's not necessarily all chips are in, but it's pretty close this weekend.
All right, so let's take for granted that Riley Leonard is going to play. All right, so let's move forward from that. Let's say he is playing. Duke will make it to their second ever ACC title game, I believe. Well, in modern history, if Riley Leonard plays, what's the path to Duke making it to the ACC championship game?
Well, to me, if you're Duke, obviously the road trip this week, and I also want to see how they respond. Number one, to tough, emotional back-to-back road trips. You get the luxury of playing at home a lot, where all of a sudden you got to go on the road to take on number one, a really good team, and number two, a really good team that's good at home. Florida State falls into that category. Louisville falls into that category. I want to see how they handle that. The setback of, hey, we were up by 3, we're driving, got a chance to put them down 10. All of a sudden, everybody can get a little nervous, get the sweaty palms down in Tallahassee. We let that thing slip away, and to Florida State's credit, they win the game. So how do you respond, right? I mean, Mike Elko, that's going to be one of his challenges this week, to get his guys to say, guess what? Hey, we fell short, but man, we still got 1,000 things to play for. It begins this week. And you're going to walk into another hostile environment. Those folks at Louisville are starting to sense it and feel it. You saw what they did with Notre Dame. I thought they ambushed a really talented Notre Dame team. You guys had a chance to see the Irish at Wallace Wade Outdoors, I call it. So I think emotionally, how does Duke respond this week will be just as important as Riley Leonard's ankle. I mean, they're going to have to be jacked up and ready to roll because that's what they're walking into. And I think both teams understand that whoever wins, man, you position yourself for a November ride to get to Charlotte. Whoever loses, man, you still got a lot of work to do, and then you're going to need some help. So, like I said, it is a really, really critical game.
Well, Mark, I know you burned up the road a couple times this year already from Charlotte in that F-150 coming all the way up here to Durham. Do you have a favorite barbecue place or food place that you like here in the Durham area?
Well, you know what's funny? If I know I'm going to Duke, State, or Carolina, and again, I'm down here in Charlotte, here's how I played it. In fact, when I was up at Duke 2 weeks ago for the NC State game, we did our show there Friday, and it was an up and back trip for me that particular Friday. I left. I didn't eat breakfast on purpose because we always have like a Zoom meeting and all that stuff for our ACC network stuff around 10. And I was going to do some taping and all that stuff before we did our show from 4 to 6. So I timed it where I could stop in Lexington, North Carolina, and eat Lexington barbecue. So I had lunch at Lexington barbecue. By the time I got to Duke, it was about 2 in the afternoon, and we had some fun and did some segments and all that stuff. And then so we did the show from 4 to 6, and so I was driving back home to Charlotte. So I stopped by Lexington barbecue for dinner, and there were a couple people that gave me the double look when I walked in, like, "Hey, you fat, you know what? Weren't you in here earlier today?" I was like, "Yeah, I was." And so, so I like the time where I'm going. If I'm going to the Triangle, that I will normally stop by in Lexington and grab barbecue either on the way up, on the way back, and if I could do both, like I did 2 weeks ago, that's what I do. But there's always a bunch of good places to eat, for sure.
Yeah, well, I've followed you for a long time. I've been listening to you for over the years, back in the FNZ days, the old QCB, and I've heard you probably 1,000 times mention the sacred LBC, Lexington Barbecue. One more question though before we let you go: is Bob Melvin the guy that's going to help our Giants win?
Uh,
Or do you have somebody else that you think that nobody else cares about on the podcast but me and you? But do you have another guy that you think could do
well,
it?
here's how I look at it. As long as they don't hire Dave Roberts, we got a chance because Dave Roberts stinks.
Or
The
Don
Dolphins
Mattingly?
stink.
Or Mattingly? We don't need
Uh,
him either.
Right. I mean, so as long as we can stay away from Dave Roberts, we're okay. I would like to get Bruce Bochy back. He's doing a nice job. I know they got a big game with Game 7, but Boch was the absolute greatest of all
Yes.
time. But I believe our Giants need a little bit more pitching. They need a star with a bat. I mean, we got a long way to go. We're basically a 500 team at best right now, and have struck out in the free agent business. And again, I'm one of these idiots that stays up on the East Coast watching Giants baseball till 2 o'clock in the morning. And we had a great run winning it in 10, 12, and 14, but it has been slim picking since. So it is a work in progress. As Nina King says, and it's true for all of us, you have to you have to be patient if you're a real fan. That's the truth.
Well, I mean, we've automatically turned it from the Section 17 football podcast to the Section 17 baseball podcast. Thanks, Scott. Mark,
Hey.
look, we really appreciate you coming on.
Anytime.
It's always good to hear your perspectives of ACC football, and maybe we can get up, hopefully the Pitt game, maybe we'll see the crew there, who knows, Saturday after Thanksgiving. But again, we really appreciate you coming on to the Section 17 podcast.
You got it. It's my pleasure. And again, for all Duke fans, man, enjoy this guy, Mike Elko, because he is a big time coach. And he's already proven it in a short period of time. And the way Duke's recruiting, and like I said, they are going nowhere fast other than staying right there in everybody's business. So it's a good time to be a Duke Blue Devil. There's no doubt about that.
Thanks again, Mark. Really appreciate it.
You got it, guys. Have a good one.
And special thanks to Mark Packer Brian for coming on, talking with us. Scott, I know that was a big time thing for you. That was brought to you by Durham Devils Club. .com. This is Duke's NIL arm for the football program, and then potentially for other sports as well. If you've not heard anything about what's going on there, go to their website at DurhamDevilsClub.com. Become a subscriber. We want you to become at least a $25 a month subscriber because you get access to exclusive behind-the-scenes content. We will be interviewing defensive coordinator Tyler Santucci next Thursday. That's just for Trinity Club members and above. We will be doing interviews with players such as Peyton Jones, upcoming, Al Blades, Miles Jones, and others. And so going to be a good time there, but you only get that access if you're at the $25 level or higher. So go to DurhamDevilsClub.com and become a member of the team.
2 weeks, Josh. Sorry, didn't mean to correct you. November 9th, not the 2nd.
Whatever.
Hey, but that just gives people more time to sign up for Durham Devils Club.
Yeah, that'll be all
I
right.
mean, yeah, exactly. All right.
It's
so
next week. It's next Thursday, not this Thursday.
Well, next Thursday's the 2nd.
This
All right, we're not
Thursday. This Thursday is the 2nd. Next Thursday is the 9th. Come on, Brian.
No, it's
This
the
Thursday is not the
23rd.
2nd.
Oh, it's not?
This Thursday
We're
is
playing
not
Wake on the 2nd.
Oh,
Have you
crap.
Have you been drinking?
No, man, I guess I need to go. I need to get some rest.
In
Oh,
Josh's
my.
defense, we were out a little late Saturday night, just
Yeah.
trying to wait for everybody to leave. I mean,
And
we
then
finally
we drove home Sunday.
Yeah,
Yeah, we-
okay. That'd be one hell of a schedule, though. Thursday night against Wake and then Saturday against Louisville.
We ready,
So,
baby.
I can't
Sorry,
help him out
guys.
there.
I'm sorry. I'm
I
sorry.
can't
That was
help
my
him out
bad.
on that one.
hey, usually I'm the one that flubs up. Finally, Josh flubs up. Yeah. So in 2 weeks time, Tyler Santucci with the Durham Devils Club. All right, we've got to get into another mailbag edition. We've got a lot of questions for the upcoming game against Louisville. Some folks asked about the FSU game. We might have touched on some of these questions, but Jamie, go ahead and get us rolling with this week's mailbag.
I just think Josh is ready for Thanksgiving, so he's trying to get to November. Like,
Bring
Hey,
on the turkey.
in 4 weeks, Christmas is here, folks. Just be prepared. Santa's coming.
Brian's got. Hey, listen. Brian thinks so because he's doing bowl projections. So anyway,
all right, I'm gonna start this a little differently than I normally do, because I'm gonna go with the last question that I looked at on Facebook first, because I thought it was a great question.
You wild man.
James E. Hayward, discuss our chances of winning out and a rematch with FSU in Charlotte. Last night was or Saturday night was an experience for the Duke team that will make them a stronger program. And look, people, once again, I'm a fan. I can discuss this. I can be like, I can go into a rant like what's his name, Mike Gundy. Except I'll say I'm a fan. Come
I'm
at me.
40.
I'm a fan.
I'm a
I'm
fan.
I'm 45. I'm a
40.
fan.
You come at me.
I've got a 13-year-old son and a wife.
I would love the chance at a rematch with FSU. Like I said, with a healthy Riley Leonard, I think Duke can win that game. What you guys think?
Okay, so I think one of the Louisville beat writers came out with an injury report. Louisville could be down some key players this weekend. Don't wish any injuries on anyone, but if there's something that we need to help us out, is some key injuries on their end to kind of offset Riley's injury. Riley could still play. We don't know. He is, quote, day to day. Don't ask us. We don't have any insider knowledge. Louisville, we've got to win. Wake Forest could be a trap game on Thursday night. It always is. Next Thursday, not this Thursday, next Thursday.
But they suck.
But what happened in Kenan Stadium
That's
this
true.
past Saturday?
UVA really sucks. So
Yeah,
you're right.
exactly. Got to win Louisville. You got to win Wake, and then the big matchup November 11th against UNC. I mean, we were talking about this before we recorded. I don't think I've ever seen Duke UNC football tickets as high as they are right now, with the understanding that the hope is both teams win out until November 11th. If Duke wins those 3 games, let's put them at they'd be what, 8-2. Their last 2 games are against Virginia, at Virginia, which now becomes a very interesting game because we've seen it last year with Georgia Tech when they made the coaching change. They got that one big win against Duke, and it seemed like it turned their whole season around. That could be the case for Virginia after beating UNC. Then you have Duke's arch nemesis Saturday after Thanksgiving, Pitt. And ever since that quarterback change, I've said Pitt is going to be a different team than what we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. So I truly believe if Duke can beat Louisville and UNC, they're in the driver's seat to get back to Charlotte to play Florida State for a rematch of the 2013 game. But before I forget, I'm sorry. Coastal Calamity, as we talked with Mark Packer, is alive and well, folks. It has not gone anywhere. So while we're talking about all this, there could be a sleeper team that shows up with 2 losses and can contest for the ACC title game too. Scott?
I mean, it's just Pack referenced this when he was talking. He said basically from here on out, it's a loser leave town match, and that's what it is. If Duke takes an L, the opportunities of getting to the ACC championship just make a lot harder. And if you happen to take a third loss, you're pretty much eliminated. So you got to beat Louisville, you got to beat Wake, and then if you go in there, 8-1, 7-2 in Chapel Hill College, I mean, man, they're going to be ready anyway because they want to get that bell back. So hey, but we got to beat Louisville first. That's that's me going from being a fan to the reality for a minute. We got to beat Louisville first, and they're going to be a tough opponent to beat there at Louisville.
I'm still a fan. I want FSU again. Billy Potter on Facebook wants to know what happened to our pass offense. He said, you think averaging, so many yards rushing a game would be, the receivers would be able to get open and with teams stacking the box, but seems like our passing game has just kind of struggled.
I'll tell you this one. I mean, number one, our receivers have not gotten taller. You know what I mean? So like that is what it is. They're physically built the way they're going to be built. Number one. Number two, I hate to keep doing this, but like the odd matchups that Duke has had every game, there's not been one game where it's like we got to open it up and we got to air it out the whole game. There's not been one game. The NC State game, we shut down the entire offense at halftime. Like the Florida State, Clemson. Okay, Florida State, Clemson, Notre Dame. We are not going to throw the ball on those defenses. It just isn't going to happen. Like I don't care. Like with the current roster setup we have, we are not throwing the ball like crazy against those three teams. The rest of the games have been complete blowouts. So like I hate to be that guy, but I'm not concerned about the pass game because we haven't necessarily had to use it. And like Coach Oko said, if we don't have to throw the risky 25-yard plus passes and we can hand it off to Jaquez and Jordan and have a quarterback keep, why in the world would we do it? And so like I get the frustration because it's not sexy, right? It's not sexy to win by running the football and by controlling the clock and by just scoring more points. It's sexy to throw that deep ball. It's sexy to on your RPO to hold it and throw it downfield. I get it, but like we're not going to do it against those three teams, and then the other games have been blowouts. That is my explanation for it.
I agree. Do you have something to say, Brian?
No, I mean, would you rather be sexy and potentially lose more games in the year, or would you rather be boring and win like we've been winning?
I would
I
say
mean,
this.
it's like we can't have it both ways, folks. We get it, we understand it. Pound the ball all day long if it means Duke's going to have a 8, 9, 10 win season.
Well, Duke has 3 interceptions on the season. They're all. I mean, the one Riley threw, that guy made a great play. The one Henry guy made a great play. The only bad interception he threw was against Clemson, and he was throwing because he was running for his life. So I mean, it is what it is. It's not like they're throwing it down the field into coverage either. So
Well, did you mention the Notre Dame one? I zoned out for a second.
did we throw one against Notre Dame?
Yeah, we threw one in the red zone against Notre Dame. It was pretty bad.
Oh, see, I must have zoned out on that
Didn't we
one.
throw one in the end zone? Like he threw one. No, he threw one. We were backed up, and he threw one, and they had it like the 15-yard line. Yeah.
No,
So
that
we
okay.
threw.
I'm sorry. It wasn't Clemson. It was Notre Dame. We threw
Yeah,
to
it was
Notre Dame.
bad. That was a
I'm
bad one.
sorry. That
Yeah,
was my fault.
that's all right, man. All good, homie.
It's not like we can't throw the ball. I just think, all right, it's just a matter of the fact that you got Waters and you got Jaquez, who had such a great game.
Yep.
And now, I mean, Coleman came in and was running hard too in the fourth quarter.
Shout out J.
Uh,
Cole,
yeah,
dude.
he was
Yeah.
Good to
coming.
see
He,
him back
he
on the
ran
field.
hard. Yeah, so it was nice to see him out there. So you got, I mean, an embarrassingly deep running back room. So you might as well use them.
Yep.
All right, coming
Hey,
up
and
next.
according to Florida State fans, you got an offensive line who holds so beautifully.
Yeah.
So why not run?
Next on Facebook, we got Pradeep coming in. What would you think about a scheme where we play both Riley and Henry in the backfield? Because both can run and both can throw. Riley was confident but seemed less mobile than normal for obvious reasons. Henry has a cannon but not as much in game experience. If we put Riley in shotgun with Waters and Beelan on either side, he wants to know what our thoughts would be on that.
Hey, I'll one up you, Pradeep. Shout out Pradeep, by the way.
Mhm.
Hope you're listening. Um, I'll run you one even better. Do that and then bring Jomo in motion, and then you got 3 quarterback options in the same backfield at one time. To answer his question, I mean I think that sounds good, but you're risking injury on both players on one
Yep.
play, and I don't think Duke can do that. I don't think they can afford to do that. I would love to see that some trickeration like that because I think we know that Riley could go in motion and turn into a pass catcher for sure. And so, like, I actually think that would be something interesting if both those guys were healthy.
But have we seen any trick plays this year? I'm trying to go through the games. There's not been a single play that has been something that where we're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I don't know if Kevin Johns wants to install trick plays. I could be wrong. He might be saving it for the UNC game.
I have an idea though. Trevor Horton. There you go. That's your homework assignment, buddy. That's a new play for you to design for us to run somewhere
Heck
down
yeah.
the road here.
Future OC.
All
Hey,
right.
by the way, if we are going to run a trick play, can I just throw it out there? If we're gonna, it needs to be a fake punt. We all know what needs to happen. It needs to be a fake punt, and it needs to get hiked to the up man. Y'all know who the up man is on punts? You know who the up man is?
El Presidente.
Big Wayne the campaign. It's got to get hiked to Dwayne. He's got to run over a couple of people and get the first down. So if we're going to run trickeration, that's what's got to happen.
So Tyler Lester's coming in, and he said he wants to make things a little more lighthearted. Could Duke run the triple option this year? Could we go full Paul Johnson at Louisville and just let's just run the football?
So, guys, do you remember when they were searching for the coach and early speculation was Army's coach? Is it Jeff Monken?
Yes, I was ready to
Jeff
turn in my
Monken.
fanhood.
Right. We all were like, if this happens and he gets hired, Scott was like, I'm not going to be there. I'll
I ain't
turn in
going
my
to
season
games."
tickets.
No,
Yeah, I'm doing it. I've never seen Scott with a pouty face as big as that because it is a very boring offense. Now it's very confusing, and you could take out some people's legs. See Georgia Tech from 2008 to 2019.
Yep.
But yeah, I'd have to turn the channel and turn it back on. It's pretty
Now-
boring.
Now let me say this: should Duke get up 14-0 in the first quarter, I can promise you we're going to see 75 to 80% run plays. I can promise you that.
Jordan might break the Duke single season touchdown record
No doubt.
at Louisville.
Like, I can promise you that. And so, once again, fans who want us to throw the ball more, look, if we get up early, I can promise you that we're going to be running that football.
Next week's mailbag is going to be full of
Oh,
angry
yeah.
fans.
Oh, yeah. That's all right. Angry fans sitting at 6-2. That'll be all right.
Scott Anthony Lambley says the coaches did an excellent job of getting the guys ready to go from the opening kickoff. How did they get the guys prepared to not be in awe of that environment? Because that's a tough situation there. Because Duke has only played at UConn this year, so you're going into Doak Campbell. That's a big difference.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Elko say in his presser last week they were going to pump in noise during practice to kind of get them ready for that? I mean, you hear NFL coaches do that, you hear college coaches doing that, but you just can't replicate the actual feeling and the vibrations and the noise that come from 75,000 rabid fans. So, I mean, knowing Coach Elko, if someone asks them it, we're just going to take it like we do every other game, one game at a time, and they know their positions and they know what they need to do. But that is tough to do, especially because Scott and Josh, obviously, you can attest to this more. Just the feeling that it was having all those fans coming down on the field, screaming, doing the tomahawk chop, yelling, no matter what down it was. I mean, that's the kind of atmosphere that Coach Elko wants to see in Wallace Wade, no matter who the opponent is.
Listen, from pregame, the first 2.5 quarters to the fourth quarter when they took the lead, the level was here to here. And you could feel the stadium rocking when they scored that last touchdown. And you could feel, I mean, the girls sitting behind me, it almost felt like they were chopping my head because the way they were getting so excited, you could feel the breeze and the air coming from behind there. It was crazy.
Well-
But that's what you want. That's the atmosphere you want if you can do it. And if you're able to have that kind of stadium, man, and it was great. I didn't sit there angry at all the whole time when they were up there cheering and screaming and hollering. I thought this is beautiful. This is what I came for this experience. The W on top of it would have just been icing on top of the cake. But
Yeah, I think we've all been in Cameron, right? When Duke gets a dunk, right, and then they come down to get a turnover, and then they hit a three, and Cameron's literally like the top is like coming off of Cameron. Honestly, for many parts of the fourth quarter, Doak Campbell felt like that in an outdoor stadium with 75,000 people instead of 9,000. Right? It was just so anyway. But to answer Jamie's question, I mean, how do you prepare for that? Well, I did hear him say that Tomahawk Chop was played extremely loud in practice a few times. And they did, if you noticed in the game, they did go with a hand signal and a clap instead of just a clap for the snap. That actually messed us up a couple times early in the game. First drive, I know we got a delay a game call because of it. So I mean, it did have an impact for sure. But I mean, you got to be prepared for that. Like you said, UConn is the only other away game, and slightly different atmosphere there at UConn than Doak
But
Campbell.
did they play Every Time We Touch at Doak Campbell?
No, they actually have better taste in music. So yes.
But
And the band did not play Pink at halftime.
Oh,
in all
the band did play the Duke fight song.
oh,
We couldn't make it out though. I have no clue what song they were playing. They're like, we now want to extend a welcome to our friends at Duke. We're gonna play their fight song. I know it was some random, like I guess it ended up being the Duke fight song, but like I did not recognize it for like the first 30 seconds. So.
Okay, everybody was facing the other direction. So none of the instruments were facing our direction, which made no sense at all. Because if you're going to play it to the band, to the fans, we were on this end, and they were going towards the other end. So it didn't make any sense at all.
and I will say, I mean, just having guys like Dwayne Carter, guys like Riley Leonard, guys like Jalen Calhoun, who have been there, before. They've been in loud environments. They're older guys. I mean, they have a calming effect on the team too. I think that really helps. Graham Barton's another one. I mean, I'll miss somebody, but so I'm gonna stop saying names. But you get what I'm saying. We got an older
Yeah.
team. We got a team that's prepared to play in an environment like that. All right, Lee Shepard on Facebook. He says, I feel given Riley's chances of missing time this week, there didn't seem to be a game plan for Beelan when he came into the game for his skills. What do we need to do to keep Beelan involved on a regular basis with Riley's injuries? It's kind of hard. It's difficult
I
because
hear
you're
him,
trying to.
but like I don't think we can say there was no game plan in place. I just think that like you cannot plan for your starting quarterback to go out in the fourth quarter up what were we up one? Up three. Up three. Like there is no game plan for that. Like he has to get thrust in and he came in and it was like a 1st and 10 inside the 20. Like, how do you game plan for that? Like I don't know. I think that's selling Kevin Johns a little bit short on the offensive game plan. I think at the end of the day, what happened is if you can imagine a basketball team whose dominant scorer that scores 35 points a game goes out with an injury and they replace him with a redshirt freshman that averages 3.4 points a game currently. Like, what are you going to do? Right? Like at the end of the day. So like that's all it was. I'm not saying that Henry is is just, you know, 3.4 points a game. I'm saying Henry is a redshirt freshman. I'm saying Henry doesn't have those reps and he's a different player than Riley. And so like I don't know. I mean, once again, any other team other than the fastest defense we're going to face all season, I think things are a little bit different. So
All
anyway,
right, moving on to
shout out Henry,
X.
by the way. Shout out Henry.
Yeah, coming in that situation, I mean, it's impossible. Like
Yep.
that's none of. I mean, I'd like to see me try coming into that situation. Like as I was when I was like, what is Henry 19?
Yep.
Like there's no
Doak Campbell,
chance.
Doak Campbell 1, Jamie 0.
Yeah, there's no chance 19-year-old Jamie is doing anything but like falling flat on his face out there. So, um, moving on to X, we got at LA Dodgers all day. Sam coming in with his weekly question. He said, if we were to way oversimplify the game plan to defeating Louisville, is saying stopping Jahar Jordan, is that how you say it? Yeah, Jahar Jordan, the answer, assuming he's healthy, which seems to him, he says that's what makes Louisville go, which we did here today.
Hamstring.
Jordan is listed as questionable for the game. Who knows if he plays or not? What do you guys think?
I mean, the hamstring is a tough one. That's Miles Jones. He's having
Yep.
trouble with his. And Sam, for the record, sorry, dude. We had to talk our little Giants Dodgers there with Pack. Can't have Pack on and not talk about how much he hates the Dodgers. Let's just be straight up. That would be like having me on a podcast somewhere and not asking me to talk about how much I hate Chapel Hill College.
Next.
All At TS Lester _, how nice does it feel to be at a point where we lose to a top 4 team on the road and people are upset talking about how we could have won? He's saying, not saying he's happy with the loss, but man, how times have changed.
It's
And
been 10.
yes, like, I mean, just
It's
a couple of years ago, like if we were going on the road, I mean, I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus. But if we were going under the road under David Cutcliffe a few years ago against the number 4 team in the country, what were we expecting?
I'm not
Twitter,
gonna throw anybody under the bus.
yeah,
So
Twitter Jamie would show up in the first quarter and would probably get suspended on X. No, I mean it's been probably 10 years since we've had that feeling. The 13 team that they
Yeah,
honored.
okay, look. Let me get on my little soapbox. This is my little soapbox.
Everyone's on the soapbox tonight. I love it.
Yeah, no. Let's talk about that 2013 team, and this is all credit to them. I feel like that 2013 team played above their heads the entire season. And if you really looked at them like physically, they didn't belong on that field with Texas A&M. Mike Evans, Johnny Manziel, like they didn't necessarily belong on that field, right? Like they could not physically match up with that team. But they won in all the mental areas, right? Like they didn't turn the ball over. They played smart football. And this Duke team, while I believe we play smart as well and we rely on our mental game, this Duke team can physically get on that field. Now, I understand there is a difference between like you look at their wide receiver room compared to our wide receiver room, their tight end room. But I understand the physical difference, but I feel like in the trenches and in the secondary, I feel like we are on that field physically with teams like we were not in 2013. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong there. I'm not a football player. I talk about football. I watch football, but I just feel like 2013. I felt like we were always playing above our heads. This year, I feel like, man, we are literally like banging with these guys in the trenches and winning.
Banging, huh? Oh, okay. All
I
right.
couldn't think of a better word. Could not think
Well,
of a better word, Brian.
no. What I was getting at though is this: it's been that long since we've had those games. Whether the team played above their heads or not, like, hey, we have a legit shot of winning this game. Like even the Texas A&M game,
Yeah,
every
you're
Duke
right.
fan that I knew was like, we're going to beat them. We have a
Yeah.
shot. And every time this year, there's not been a single game where we collectively did not think that Duke would win. Yes, we had our predictions episode to where we thought, for points, but ultimately, Duke's got a chance to win every game this year, whether it was Clemson, Notre Dame, Florida State, insert team here. So,
And
yeah,
Louisville, back to the question. Louisville is I think we're still in the Louisville question, running back.
yeah.
When he is not playing
No,
and he
that's
is not in,
question
is it already
before.
gone? My bad.
yeah, we
They are a
moved on.
different team. Sorry.
Again, Tyler
ADHD kicking
Santucci
in.
in 2 weeks, folks. 2 weeks, November 9th.
Hey, listen.
Listen,
Anyway.
real fast
I was
though.
about to make a dementia joke, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, real fast. I saw this mentioned on Twitter during the game that the folks, which was Corso and not Corso, it was Herb Street and Fowler up there. They were having a hard time believing in the first half that Duke was out physicaling Florida State. And at this point, everybody should know this. This is Duke football. This is Mike Elko Duke football. They're going to be out there out physicaling everyone since Brian heard it wrong. And, that's what they do. That's how they play their brand of football. And it's amazing that people still don't get it.
Physicaling.
Oh, I'm gonna out physicaling this next question. At Fish Fry 02. Seems coach not allowing Riley to return took the fight out of the team, and some players look frustrated after Henry's drives failed. What does it take to get the coaches and players to have faith in Henry if he's the guy next week? I
Okay.
think once again this is a veteran team. They're gonna if Henry is the guy next week, they're gonna fall in behind Henry and they're gonna support him as in every way they can possibly support him.
If I'm being honest, if I'm Henry Beeling and I'm told, hey, Riley's starting, and again, this is just me armchair quarterbacking this. In my mind, it's okay. I'm not going to get on the field tonight, maybe for a play or two if they need me. But I'm going to be here. I'm going to be watching the plays. I'm going to be listening to Coach Johns. And then all of a sudden, hey, get your helmet. You're going in. Or, hey, warm up. You're going in. I mean, you're not expecting that. So I really don't think that the players and the coaches were demoralized because he was in. I think it was just the momentum had shifted greatly so much. And that 97-yard drive that Florida State had, it just gassed the defense. And I mean, yes, Riley going out changed, but it's not something to where Henry comes in and they're like, oh well, this isn't a game anymore. Like I they have enough faith in Henry to start him in games, and he might have to start against Louisville this weekend. We don't know.
And look, like I think, and we talk football, like, but we don't play football. There's not a guy out there. Listen, these guys are brothers, man. Like they are in this thing together. Was there some frustration? Okay, wait. Let me ask you. For 3 quarters, they absolutely laid everything out there on the line, and then the quarterback, the circumstances, not the person, the circumstances became frustrating. Yes, the fact that Henry's probably not going to be able to make that pass that Riley could make. Yeah, that's probably frustrating. It's not them frustrated at Henry. It's them frustrated at the situation that they're currently in. And that happens in football games all the time. Listen, Jacquez Moore, that game meant a little bit more to Jacquez probably than other people because of how close it is to his home. Dude, he was on people the whole game. He was yelling at the offensive line. He was yelling at the receivers. He was all over it. But that's not he's not mad at them. He's not demoralizing them. Like that's part of being a brother. That's part of being like on a team with somebody. So like I think we're misreading it. Like every single person on that team wants Henry Beelan to absolutely succeed in everything. I think it's a little unfair that the fans are like kind of reading it the way they are because like man, these guys want the best for one another. Like they want nothing more than Henry to be successful. Because if Henry's successful, guess what? They are successful.
All right. At Lisa Cadlick has a question about the Louisville game. She says she only, speaking of Louisville, she only saw part of the Louisville Notre Dame game and didn't see any of the Louisville Pitt game. Who is the real Louisville, and what are the keys to the game for Duke? I mean, because we even saw Louisville versus NC State, and they didn't look good at all, in my opinion, not at all. And
So
then they beat Notre Dame, so it's like,
Mark mentioned that two completely different teams. At home, they're dominant, but on the road, they struggle. So Duke fans, be ready. You're probably going to be facing a Louisville team that looks dominant as they have in all home games. And by the way, who had a bye week to prepare for Duke for this week? Louisville. So they had extra time to prepare. So we really don't know. I mean, again, because if you put Louisville and Wallace Wade, you would think Duke has a great shot at winning. You put them at home, which is what's going to happen this weekend. It's a toss up. Could the same home Louisville team show up that's been dominating teams?
Well, Plummer has thrown for almost 2,000 yards and it's 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and been sacked 15 times.
Well, it's like anything. Win the trenches, right? Win the trenches. Get to Plummer. He can't get the ball to what's Thrash and those other receivers. And if the running back doesn't play, I mean, who knows, man? This that the team that beat Notre Dame could show up, or the team that only scored 13 points against what was it, State, beat them 13-10. That team could show up. Who knows?
at Splash Obi is coming in with, if Henry plays this weekend, how do we handle the offense? When he went in against FSU, and we've talked about this, FSU completely sold out and loaded the box, and they were going to stop the run. They were going to obviously make Henry make some plays. Um, what does he need to do different this weekend if he does play?
I mean, number one, the Louisville defense ain't the Florida State defense. We know that for sure. So Henry's going to have to throw the ball. He's going to have to. I mean, I don't. I mean, at some point, he's going to have to throw the ball. He can throw the ball, so he's going to have to. And then, like I said, if Duke gets up by more than a touchdown, you can expect 8 out of 10 plays to be running plays. Just is what it is. But I do believe you're going to have to see Henry throw the football.
At Drew Chish comes in, knowing Chapel Hill College wet the bed versus UVA. At the time, was it more painful to lose to FSU, or did the Chapel Hill College loss kind of help ease that pain a little bit? And I'm all about Carolina losing, so that definitely helped ease the pain. But I still, still obviously wanted Duke to win that game in FSU and have that be their first win ever over FSU would have been awesome.
I mean, you're welcome, Duke fans. Had I not been at that game, UNC would have probably just wiped the floor with UVA. No, it's always something because I think UNC fans, and some have actually come out and said this, they're starting to realize that UNC will probably never be a title contending team because it seems like every time they get to this point, something happens. And I talking solely UNC right now, sorry. But they were ranked in the top 10 6 times in their school history. 5 of those times, as soon as they hit the top 10, they lost. So, yes, while it was hard to take that loss at FSU based off of how the team performed 3 of the 4 quarters, it was equally as nice to see UNC get put back into their little box that they're always in. And now UNC fans are like, well, we lost this one. We'll probably go 8-4 and go to a bowl game that we don't care about.
Well, we were enjoying it in the upper end of the section. We were keeping up with it. The little bit of phone signal we had, we were able to keep up with it and what was going on. And at times, it looked like a couple other fans were watching it too. But then they finally actually put the score in the stadium on the big screen, and then 75,000 people were excited at the same time. So it was really good. It was really cool.
All right, this is a good question coming in from at Duke Defender. Is there any chance Tyler Cherry could come in and compete for the starting role as a true freshman if, obviously a big if, Riley decides to declare for the draft? And I mean, if Riley does leave, I mean, it's going to be it's going to be another open competition, right? I mean, you're going to have
I have
Beeland,
one statement
Loftus.
to make, and I'm not going to say. I have one sentence. Tyler Cherry did not sign to come to Duke to not play football. That's all I'm going to
Right,
say.
right. So
Has
there's it's
has
going to,
I'm sorry, has he signed yet? Or is he still
You
verbally
can't
committed?
sign. You can't sign until December.
And
So
that is
he's a
why I
hard
hate.
commit.
That
He's a
is
hard
why I
commit.
hate. That's why I hate recruiting.
He's a
Because
hard
yeah,
commit.
put
he's
him
a
in
hard
11.
commit. He's coming. He's coming, and there's going to be a competition
Yeah,
if
I mean,
Riley leaves. If Riley
correct.
leaves,
And there will be a
if Riley's
competition.
here,
I'm not saying he's gonna obviously win it either. I'm just saying there will be a competition. He did not come here to be like, yeah, let me sit in the back seat here and wait my turn.
you know,
Like that dude is moving up the recruiting rankings and
If he
so
and
comes,
his only thing, the only time he's going to sit would be if Riley comes back, like, and then he's going
or
to
if he
sit.
gets beat out,
Yeah,
by Grayson and or Henry, he's
right,
gonna sit. But I'm saying there will be a competition. That
right.
dude came to play.
All right. I thought this was another good question. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Have we at CB Jones 725? Have we received an explanation from the ACC regarding why we were not able to snap the ball on the 4th and 2 play at midfield early in the third quarter? It appears that we had fooled FSU and the officials not subbing. Who knows if it would have made a big difference? But it is a big what if. And Elko was, I can tell you from TV, he was as red as Florida State's, like,
Yeah.
whoever, some of the people wearing red, that's how red Elko was.
Yeah, I
He
mentioned it
was,
earlier. I didn't know that was a question. I mentioned it earlier. I don't know an explanation other than they missed it. The refs missed it. Like we didn't sub. We went straight to the line, and for some reason, that official hovered over the ball and would not let us snap it. And Elko flipped his lid, and rightfully so. So yeah, that to the question, who knows what would have happened if we could have gone for it there.
all right, I'm just going to go with one more question as we're running a little bit long here. At potato, not turnip. Great name. Great name. At potato, not turnip. Do you think that Coach Elko is going to stay long term? How does all this success translate into next year's recruiting class?
we have talked about this and talked about this and talked about this. We personally think that he's going to stay regardless because at some point, him, Nina, and President Price are going to have to sit down and discuss this. My personal opinion, we're going to lose coordinators before we lose Coach Elko. It's just the circle of life. You've got coordinators that want to become head coaches to show what they're really worth. Could we lose Kevin Johns after this year? Absolutely. Could we lose a positions coach to become a coordinator somewhere? Absolutely. Tyler Santucci, I don't think will go because this is his very first year at Duke. But I truly believe that Nina King will do everything possible to keep Mike Elko happy. They gave him an extension after last year's season. They are probably going to give him another extension this season. And his family loves the place. And I don't think he's done. And we talked about this. He's not done with what he wants to accomplish here at Duke. Now, if Duke had an ACC title, a couple of playoff appearances, and don't forget, folks, next year starts the 12-team playoff. So I'm wondering if he's trying to at least get Duke in a couple of those before he even considers looking elsewhere. My 2 cents, he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Let me tell you where he's not going. He's not going to Michigan State. That's
Yep.
where he's not going. And them doing Hitler trivia this past Saturday, probably it didn't help anything. So
Nah.
he is not going to Michigan State. And so that can stop. I think there are a couple strategic places. If they were to just beat down the door, he'd have to at least take the phone call. Other than that, I think as long as Nina and President Price will fork the money over to him at the end of the day, I think he stays here until just one of those jobs that any of us would take comes along. That's just my opinion. He's got kids in school, blah, blah, blah. We've already discussed it, like Brian said. Is that it, Jamie? Boom. Hey, thanks, guys, for your questions. We really, really appreciate them. They add to it, to the conversation every week, and we want you to continue doing those. I think Sam at LA Dodgers all day. I think he's done one every single week that we have taken questions.
That's an impressive streak.
It is. It is. Sam's going streaking, and so we appreciate that. It is now time for one of our our sponsored segments. Sorry, that we do every single week, and that gives you a little peek on the history of Duke football, and that is entitled simply "This Week in Duke Football History" with one Mr. Scott Medlin. Scott, take it away.
So for this week in Duke football history, we're going to go back to October 27, 2018. Deion Jackson would set a school record for most all-purpose yards by a Duke player playing against Coastal Division rival Pitt. Jackson would go against the Panthers, rushing for 162 yards, 10 carries, 3 passes for 89 yards. He would also contribute on special teams, having 152 yards worth of kickoff returns. Jackson would end the day with a total of 403 all-purpose yards. The Blue Devils, however, would not be as successful as they would fall to Pitt in a shootout 55-45. Duke would finish that season in 2018 8-5 with the Independence Bowl win in the season. And that was This Week in Duke football history, brought to you by Bull City Sheet Metal. If you're a contractor and need ductwork for your project, give them a call at 919-354-0993 or visit bullcitysheetmetal.com. They'll take any job and grab it by the horns.
Yes, sir. Grabbing it by the horns. We appreciate our friends at Bull City Sheet Metal. Hey,
Bull City Sheet Metal.
And we appreciate Scott that.
I'm so glad you flubbed it up and I haven't. No.
Every week, we do want to remind you that you can go to DukeFootballTalk.com. And you can hit up our merch store there. You can see all of our episodes there. You can follow us on Twitter at Duke FB Talk. You can follow us on Instagram there as well, and TikTok. You can find us on Facebook by searching Duke Football Talk, and YouTube. If you are watching us on YouTube, would you subscribe to our YouTube channel? Would you tell your friends about it? We met some people down in Florida State, down in Seminole country, who were interested in our podcast and watch on YouTube. And so want to encourage you to do that. And if you're listening on Apple, would you leave us a 5-star review and rating? And then if you're listening on Spotify, would you leave us a 5-star rating? We'd appreciate it if we've earned it. If we've not earned it, don't give it to us. But if we've earned the 5 stars, would you give us the 5 stars? Brian, we still don't have a sponsor, man. I don't know if people just hate you or what it is. But we do not have
You're
a sponsor.
not helping.
I'm sorry. Listen, guys, Brian needs it. I mean, Christmas is coming. He's got to
I,
provide for the family.
I want Santa to visit the house, folks. Come on, you got to help
That's
me
right.
out here.
That's right. Well, listen, it's that time as we do every week for the Tell of the Tape. We learn a little bit about our upcoming opponent. This week it'll be the Louisville Cardinals with the Tell of the Tape and the Did You Know? Brian Kennedy. Take it away.
And I am unmuted, so I'm good to go. Okay, tell of the tape, Louisville Cardinals. Last year, Louisville went 8-5 and played in the Fenway Bowl, where they defeated the Cincinnati Bearcats 24-7. Now, as we stated earlier, last week Louisville was on the bye, but 2 weeks ago they were defeated by Pitt 38-21. Head coach Brian Brom is in his first season as Louisville's head coach and has an overall coaching record of 72 wins and 45 losses. Now, before being named the Cardinals head coach, Brom was the head coach for the Purdue Boilermakers from 2017 to 2022, as well as Western Kentucky from 2014 to 2016. He also had assistant positions at UAB, Illinois, FAU, say that 3 times fast, and Louisville. Now, overall, this is the 4th matchup all time between Duke and Louisville. The first ever meeting between Duke and Louisville took place on September 7th, 2002 at Wallace Wade Stadium, where Louisville defeated Duke handily 40-3. Louisville does lead the series matchup all time against Duke 3-0. And as much as it pains me to say this, the last meeting between the two schools occurred in 2021, where Louisville defeated Duke 62-22 in Durham. The 4 of us were there. We were probably the only fans left at the end of the game. And Mike Elko is 0-3 all-time against Louisville. That took place when he was Wake's coordinator from 2014 to 2016. And now it's time for the Did You Know? The Cardinal has been Louisville's mascot for over 100 years. The idea for the mascot came in 1913, I should say, a year after the school fielded its first ever football team from Ellen Patterson. Patterson was the wife of John Patterson, the school's arts and science dean at the time. Patterson made the suggestion due to the Cardinal being the state bird of Kentucky. She also suggested the school use red, black, and white as the school colors, and both suggestions stuck. However, it was not until 40 years later that the first Cardinal mascot was created for sporting events. In 1953, 2 female cheerleaders took one of their male counterparts, T. Lee Adams, to the home economics department and asked the department chair, known as Miss Gold, to make a cardinal head to use during games. Gold created a cardinal head that was black with a yellow beak for Adams to use. Adams would wear a red sweater during games with the cardinal head. However, after much ridicule from the student body during games, the costume would only last 1 football season and 2 basketball games before it was retired. It would not be until 1958 when the first fully costumed Louis the Cardinal, made of paper mache, would debut from the Louisville Marching Band. The outfit was constructed by the School of Engineering, and drum major Dick Dyson would portray the Cardinal from 1958 to 1960. From that time on, Louis would go through numerous makeovers through the decades, but has been a mainstay at all Louisville sporting events since the first sighting of the Cardinal in 1953. And that was the tell of the tape for the Louisville Cardinals. Josh?
All right, so Louis, we appreciate that, Brian, as we do
Dick
every
Dyson.
week. That's right, double D. And so we appreciate that segment every year.
Josh,
That wasn't even
you were on point tonight, my friend.
that was a private chat that came public right there, probably. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure, but yeah, we appreciate that segment. And honestly, it is cool to kind of get that insight on our opponent each week, and we appreciate all of the work that goes into that. But hey, this past week, obviously, we've talked about it. The game did not end the way we wanted it to. We obviously wanted Duke to get the win. We all 4 picked Duke to get the win, even probably against our better judgment for the most part. But we did. This week will be interesting because Duke has, Louisville coming up. But let's talk who won the picks on social media from last week.
All right, so for Facebook, Steve Barbie predicted FSU to win 37-17, so he was only off 1 point for FSU's score. On Twitter, David Lawson predicted FSU to win 38-24. So he actually got FSU's score on the nose. And on Instagram, Rev Brez got the score on the nose. FSU 38, Duke 20. So Rev Brez, we're going to throw a little something extra for you when you get your shirt. So congrats to those three. As always, come Thursday, we'll be putting out our predictions post. Be sure to let us know who you think will win, what the score is, and what the team will wear in Louisville.
Jamie, what are you laughing at, bro?
He's still laughing at Dick.
It's the chat. God. I just looked at it again. I gotta hide that chat.
Yeah. It'll get you. It'll get you. It'll get you for sure. Well, listen, now it's time for our picks. As we do every week, Duke's going on the road again. So obviously we know Louisville will be wearing either their red or their black at home, and Duke will be wearing something white, depending on what else they are wearing. That's what we're going to tell you. So, or our prediction, and then we'll give you our score prediction. So, who wants to go first? Well, actually, Brian, you've got the numbers for us.
Yeah, let me go ahead and just knock mine out of the way. So over under right now is 46 points, and they still have Louisville as a 4-point favorite heading into Saturday. I personally think with the news coming out today from Louisville that they could be down a couple of key starters. I think Duke is going to get back on the right track, whether it's Henry, whether it's Riley. I mean, yes, Louisville is dominated at home from what Mark said, but I think this Duke team is looking to knock Louisville out. Again, loser goes home type mentality. I've got Duke winning 31-21, so a little bit on the over, so 52 points altogether. I truly think that Louisville will go with the full blackouts with the red Cardinals on the helmet. So I think there's going to be a little bit more blue than what most people see on Duke when they go to away games. I've got the white helmet with the iron blue D, large. I think they're going to go actually white tops and blue bottoms. So white, blue for Duke. So 31-21, white, blue. Who's next? Anyone. You press unmute and then you talk. There we go.
Is that how it works? Because I'm having the trouble with it. I'm sorry.
Woo!
Scott got that mute stutter.
Well, it's the long reach. They're trying to hit the mouse pad from where I'm sitting at. But honestly, I believe they actually have a chrome helmet. It would be sweet if they did the chrome helmet, Louisville.
I would love Duke to have one.
Yes.
Chrome Duke blue
with the cardinal on it, dude. That would be freaking sweet. And I think the blackout would be wonderful. So, I think Duke's going to go similar to what Brian said, but I think Duke will go white helmet with the large blue D, white shirt. I'm hoping and praying that they don't do anything with black in it because I just don't like it. But I think they may end up. But I'm going to go blue pants. So white, blue, white, blue. For the score, this is one that I don't really. Good Lord, I have no idea. The fact 46 seems like a really high number to what could happen. Especially if Riley doesn't play and they don't have their running backs. Or we could become Big 12 football and it's 52-45. You never know. So for that, I think I'm just going to go 28-24 Duke. It will cover the over. But I think 28-24, Duke gets back in the winning ways, becomes bowl eligible, and is one step closer to going to Charlotte.
Scott, by the way, Louisville does have a type of chrome helmet, kind of a reddish hue, but has not been seen since 2014.
That's right. That thing is beautiful.
It is beautiful, but I don't think they're going to break it out. It hasn't been seen in almost 10 years. Who's next?
I'll go ahead and go. I'm thinking Louisville goes red. So as far as our jerseys, I'm going to go white helmet, big blue D, white jersey, and black pants. I don't know. That's just a random guess just to be different than everybody else, I guess. But as far as the score goes, I think it's going to be more of a low scoring game. If Duke wants to win, I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think even if Riley plays, he's not 100%. We're still not going to get the Riley that we've been accustomed to seeing. So it's going to be run some more with Waters and Jacquez, and hopefully even Jalen Coleman getting some more action after we saw him against Florida State. I'm going to go with the under. I'm going to go Duke 24, Louisville 20.
All right. I'm just going to be different, guys. Because, yeah, I agree with what Scott said, man. This could turn into a shootout depending on what happens as well. Like, I know it could be low scoring. So you guys kind of went low scoring. I'm going to go shootout. But before, I'm gonna just piss Brian off really good here. I think they let Jamion Franklin pick the uniforms again for this week. I think they go black lids with the blue D, white, black. So we'll go black, white, black. Not my favorite combo either, but they haven't done it yet this year, so that's what they're going to do. Black with the blue D, white, black. I'm going to take Duke 45 to 34 over the Louisville Cardinals. It's going to be a shootout. Duke is going to run the football all over the defense, and it's going to be a glorious event.
And this is why Josh does not bet on games. That's about 30-some points above the over-under. Very impressive. It could very well happen. Hey,
listen, I told you, I'm only doing it because all of you guys kind of went similar around the same thing. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's not like I win anything other than bragging rights.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'd rather get the uniform combo right than get the score right. Like,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we do talk about that when it comes out on Thursday nights.
For the record, though, didn't you pick the uniform last week, Josh?
I did.
Yeah,
I did pick the uniform. Spot on. The Gothic, the whole deal.
I'm still waiting for this. Speaking of uniforms, black helmet with the blue Gothic. When are they going to do that?
Yeah, that's nice.
That
I think they need
cool.
the white outline, though, in order for you to really be able to see it.
True. Yeah, no, I agree on that, but they need to do that. If they did the white and the blue, you might as well do the black as well.
In all honesty, though, if I had to pick and what I think is going to happen, I really think Josh's uniform combo is what's going to happen if
Please,
they go
Lord.
red.
No, please.
Well,
Lord,
if they go red,
I know.
Because I don't think you go icy white 2 weeks in a row.
Right.
No. Yeah, I agree.
If I was going to go something else, I was going to go like the traditional Duke, blue, white, blue, with the white D on the helmet, like blue, white, blue. We haven't done that in a while either. So.
All right. Well, that was predictions. It was all over the place, just like the end of this episode has been. We've talked about Dick Drummers. We've talked about schedules being off by 3 weeks. And Josh, I mean, our pets' heads are falling off for crying out loud. I'm going to say that one again.
Jamie still hasn't read the private chat.
Oh my God!
If he just saw that 5 minutes ago, he didn't die laughing.
He lost it.
The good news is, though, Mark Packer was half right. The Rangers are up 8-2 right now, so Bochy has a chance for us Giants fans that love Boch have a chance to go back to the World Series.
Okay, we got to make a deal. If we can't talk about Duke basketball, we cannot talk about MLB baseball.
You can't talk about baseball, man. I don't want to fall asleep.
I don't want to lose
because
subscribers.
Of the guess we had.
That's true.
I don't
shout out
MLB
Packer
any other time.
Yeah.
Shout out Packer. Hey, it's been a great episode, and honestly, Mark Packer was a great guest. We've tried to bring you different guests this year. I hope you guys that are loyal listeners over the years have appreciated the fact that we've tried to do that and not just have the same old. Now, you might get Stan Cotton for Wake Forest, but Stan's a legend. And you might
Jones Angel.
Yeah, Brian loves him some Jones Angel, so we're going to probably have Jones Angel.
Stan.
I know, but you didn't have to interview him last time. Anyway,
you know what?
I'll
tell you what.
Oh, that's right, you did.
If you can get Lawrence Taylor, someone by all means, we will.
Challenge, except if you are listening to this podcast and you have any way of getting an email address for Lawrence Taylor, if you will get that for me, I would love nothing more than to interview Lawrence Taylor. What about Julius Peppers?
JP, I'll go with him too.
Okay, so those two, either one of those two.
About that.
Either one of those two.
Lord, if we can get Julius Peppers.
Oh, Lord, God, no.
Lord, you talk about my Carolina Panther fanhood.
He would fanboy big
Jeez,
time.
I would fanboy. That would be
So
that would be
Hey,
it.
Jamie would stutter more than Scott did introducing Packers.
Jamie might actually
this
dry
morning.
heave when he
Yeah.
sees him.
Okay,
Hey,
so
Joel.
listen. If you listen to this podcast, we mean this 100%. Listen
Seriously,
to this podcast, and you have any access to Julius Peppers or Lawrence Taylor, email or whatever. If you will DM us or email us at dukefbtalk@gmail.com, we'll do our best to get them on for Carolina week.
is there anyone else that
For
within
Carolina?
football? Yeah, I'm trying to think of.
Can we get Matt
I mean,
Doherty?
what my favorite Carolina
Matt
football
Doherty.
player,
Michael
my favorite
Jordan,
Carolina football player ever was Natron Means, but like
that dude was
he was a beast, bro. He was a
Golly.
beast.
Gio Bernard, maybe.
Gio, yeah, I mean,
Gio,
I don't know though. Then we're getting to me royalty is Julius
Yeah.
Peppers and
No,
LT.
And I saw his retired locker in the locker room 2
Uh-huh.
weeks ago. That was pretty sweet. That was
Yeah,
a pretty
so
sweet
if you're
setup.
listening and you got to hook up, seriously, and we'll do our best too. And that's nothing against Jones. I mess with Brian. Brian got to play golf with Jones a few years ago. Jones is actually probably my favorite play-by-play interview that we do. So nothing against Jones, but if we can land one of those former players, you get us their info. We'll do our best to land them. So Brian, you ready to take us out?
Yeah, we have
Julius
2 weeks to
Peppers.
try to get him, Josh. 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's right. I got to
just-
count my
just-
weeks, baby.
Just throwing that out there. But it has been a great episode. We've had a lot of fun talking all things Duke, FSU, Louisville. We hope to be back next week talking about another Duke win as we look ahead to Wake Forest. But that'll wrap it up. It's been a long one. We hope that you have stayed with us the entire episode. If you have, thank you very much. And we hope to see as many of you as possible in the coming weeks as Duke will be back against Wake Forest on November 2nd. But until next week, for Josh Cox, for Scott Medlin, for Jamie Holt, and for producer Justin Sykes, I'm Brian Kennedy, and this has been another episode of the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast.
Now turn the music up.